Okay, so I'm going to be reading from this tafsir, Signs of Miraculousness, and then we're going to be discussing why Muslims should not attack Christianity. Okay? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In this is a sign that is urging the people of the book to believe in Islam, for it is making it appear familiar to them and easy. So, who are the people of the book? Okay, people of the book. So the people of the book are the Christians and the Jews. Okay, so the Christians and the Jews. And this sign is actually referring to the Quranic verse, which was mentioned earlier in the book, which is وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ, and that which was revealed before you. Now, the question is, why does this make it easier for the people of the book, right, for Christians and Jews to believe in the message of Islam? To believe in Islam. Because Islam carries the same core beliefs as Christianity and Judaism. So what does that mean? Well, in all three of the Abrahamic faiths, there is a belief in one God, there is a belief in prophets, there is a belief in angels, there is a belief in the resurrection, there is a belief in the afterlife, right? So these are all core beliefs. And Islam carries these same core beliefs as well, which is what makes it easy for the people of the book to believe in Islam, right? So continuing on, it is as though the Quran is saying, O people of the book, you should not experience any difficulty in entering this new way, for you are not casting away your outer shell altogether. So the people of the book, they should not experience difficulty when entering the way of Islam. Why? Because the Quran is not asking the people of the book to cast away their outer shell. So what does that mean? So the Risale-i Nur here is saying that religion, okay, so religion is like a shell, okay? So a shell, right, it's like a protective layering, okay? So I don't know if you've ever eaten a coconut or not. I once ate a coconut. It's like you get a knife and you like stab a hole into it, and then putting a straw and you can like drink the nice like sloshing milk inside. I would have preferred to have done it in the Bahamas, but not everyone gets to have that luxury. So like a coconut, right? A coconut has like a hard protective layering, right? Well, religion is like a shell, okay? It's like a protective layering. Now, the question is, what does religion protect us from? Well, religion protects us from the fears that accompanied with disbelief, right? Or that comes with disbelief. So, for example, if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe in the afterlife, if you don't believe in anything, then you're going to have a very bleak and gloomy vision of the world, because when you die, you're going to become nothing. When your friends, your family, your loved ones die, they're going to become nothing. You're going to be eternally separated from them. Your life lacks meaning, right? Any purpose that you set for yourself is superficial and unsatisfactory, right? Any suffering that you experience is meaningless. So, if you don't have belief, your life becomes very gloomy and bleak. In fact, my dad's friend, he made a very interesting observation when he went to the hospital. In the hospital, okay, there are obviously these patients. Now, some of the patients don't have any belief. They're religiously unaffiliated. And then some of the patients are Christian, okay? So in the hospital, what was really interesting was that the patients who had no belief, okay, so they didn't believe in anything, no afterlife, nothing. They were in a constant state of terror, okay, and they were just in this state of anxiety, because they were afraid of death, because they were ill, they had some ailments of some sorts, and they were afraid of death because remember, if you don't have belief, you don't believe in an afterlife, okay? When you die, you become nothing, right? So that's obviously very bleak. But my dad's friend, he made a very interesting observation. The patients who were Christian, okay, they were remarkably at ease. They were very relaxed, and the reason they were relaxed was, well, they did believe in an afterlife, right? They believed in the resurrection. So for the Christians, there's a continuation for them. It's not like when they die they become nothing. Like there's a continuation. They're gonna go to the afterlife, okay? But it's not like that for people who don't have belief. Okay? So, religion is like a shell. It protects us from the fears accompanied with disbelief because religion says that there's an afterlife. Religion says that there's a continuation. Religion says you'll be able to reunite with your loved ones. Okay? Religion says that there is a creator. Remember, if you don't have belief, you also see the universe in a state of anarchy. But it's not like that for the person who has belief, okay? He believes that the universe is under the control of God, okay, who reigns supreme. Okay? So continuing on. You should not experience any difficulty. Oh yeah, so you're not casting away your outer shell altogether, but only completing your beliefs and building on the fundamentals you already possess. So remember, what makes Islam easy for the people of the book to believe in is because Islam, remember, it carries the same core beliefs, right? Now here's the thing. When the Quran is only building on the fundamentals, okay? It's only building on the fundamentals. So remember, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they share the same fundamentals, the same core beliefs, but Islam builds on those fundamentals, okay? It perfects them. So how does that look? Prophets, right? Prophets. So, for example, Muslims believe in prophets. So do Jews and Christians. Now, here's the thing, however. In Christianity and Judaism, the prophets commit these very grievous sins, right? The prophets, they're like stories in the Torah and the Bible where the prophets commit these grievous sins, okay? Now the Quran comes and it says, yes, there are prophets, but the prophets don't commit major sins, okay? So, the prophets do commit minor mistakes, but they correct those mistakes, but they don't commit major sins, right? They don't commit major sins. So it's the same core belief, but the Quran is building on that core belief. It's building on that fundamental. It's completing it, right? It's completing it. Continuing on. For the Quran does not bring any new fundamentals or principal beliefs. Now this makes sense because the Quran comes from the same divine source, okay? God sent the Quran, God also sent the Torah and the Bible. So it comes from the same source, okay? It makes sense for the Quran carries the same core beliefs. It's not going to introduce any new core beliefs or any fundamentals. The Quran also talks about the existence of God, the prophets, and the resurrection. Okay. It modifies and perfects existent ones. So we talked about, for example, the fundamental or core belief of prophets. Okay, the Quran comes and affirms that core belief, but it completes, it builds on it. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about. Another example is, for example, the unity of God. Okay, so the unity of God. Okay, so Christianity, Judaism, Islam, these are all known as monotheistic faiths because the adherents of these faiths believe in one God. Okay, so we're not like polytheists. So, for example, in Islam, Islam carries the core belief of God's unity, right? The oneness of God, Tawheed. But for example, in Christianity, right? So, for example, in Christianity, you have the Trinity. And by the way, I'm not trying to attack Christianity or anything. I'm just saying. So, for example, in Christianity, we have the Trinity. Okay, we have the Trinity. Now, the Trinity basically postulates, or the Trinity is the belief where God is co-eternal with three persons. Okay, so he's co-eternal with three persons. Okay, now the Quran comes and it rejects this. The Quran comes and says God is one. God has no partners. Okay, so here once again we see an example of this. The Quran comes carrying this core belief, and it's perfecting. Okay, so because it's important to keep in mind that the Torah and the Bible was corrupted over time. It was corrupted over time. So when the Quran came, it purified that which was corrupted. Okay. So in fact, this is also like once again related to like the people of the book believing in Islam, right? So the Quran is not saying abandon, cast away your outer shell, so abandon your religion. That is not what the Quran is saying. Okay. The Quran it just purifies that which was corrupted. Okay, because the previous scriptures they also carried the same core beliefs, but they were corrupted over time. The Quran purifies it, okay? It perfects it. It completes it, okay? So, continuing on. And it combines, so it modifies and perfects existent ones, and it combines in itself the virtues of all the previous books and the essentials of all the previous laws. So the Quran, once again, it's the same divine source. God combines all of the good things from the previous scriptures that he sent down, right, the Torah and the Bible, and also all the necessities, all the essentials, and he fuses it, he combines it in the Quran. It only establishes new ordinances in secondary matters which are subject to change due to differences in time and place. So, for example, there are some things in the Quran, right, that were allowed or forbidden, and then God changed His command. So, for example, the consumption of alcohol. Now, initially, alcohol was the consumption of alcohol in Islam was initially it was allowed. It was initially allowed. But then later the Quran actually forbid it. Okay, so then it was then forbidden. Or for example, the Qibla. Okay, so Muslims pray towards Al-Aqsa Mosque, but then God, God ordered them to pray towards Al-Aqsa Mosque. But then God changed His command. I mean, God changed that and said, He ordered them to pray towards the Kaaba. Okay, so the cubicle, the shrine, the cubicle structure in Mecca. Okay, so we do see here some like ordinances or like commandments being changed. Okay, yeah, so new ordinances in secondary matters. For just as with the change of seasons, food and dress and many other things are changed, So, for example, like, it's right now the winter season. During the winter season, like the neighborhoods are laden with snow. The trees are bare. The branches are just idly swinging in the icy breeze. And what people do is, well, they wear thick clay. Okay, so they wear a coat. They wrap their face around with a scarf. Okay, they wear boots. Also, what they eat, what they drink is also different. So, for example, during the summer, you would eat ice cream. During the winter, you drink hot chocolate, right? So the time, so due to the change of seasons, right, what you wear and what you eat, what you drink also changes. And it's going to also say that so too the stages of a person's life warrant change in the manner of their education and upbringing. So when you're little, okay, so you learn about really basic things. You learn about, for example, really basic math equations, like math problems. You learn about the alphabet, and then you come to high school, and you're learning about like calculus and chemistry, and your teacher is just like writing on the blackboard these like extremely complex like mathematical equations, which half of the time you don't even understand, and you're given like homework that like towers over you, and you just buckle under the weight of holding it. So what happened? Why was there a change? Well, there was a change because you're no longer at that level, right? When you were little, you learned about basic things, but you've already learned those things, and now you need to learn about more complicated and abstract things. Right now, you can learn about all the horrific things that happened during the World Wars. You can learn about, for example, like calculus, right? So it changes with the times and the circumstances, right? It changes. For very many of these, similarly, as necessitated by wisdom and need, religious ordinances concerning secondary matters change in accordance with the stages of mankind's development, right? So, for example, we talked about some of the things that in the Quran that were maybe initially allowed or forbidden, but then, those commandments were changed. For very many of these are beneficial at one time, yet harmful at another. And very many medicines were efficacious, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, were efficacious in mankind's infancy, yet ceased being remedies in its youth. This is the reason the Quran abrogated some of its secondary pronouncements, that is, it decreed that their time had finished and the term had come for other decrees. So I'm going to stop here. So for example, like honey, all right. I love, for example, I love eating honey. Okay. If you take a nice piece of toasty bread, put a layer of butter on it, and some honey, it's delicious. It's wonderful. But if you feed it to someone who's little, who's extremely young, they'll get sick because they can't eat it yet. It's too heavy for them. Okay. It's too heavy for them. But for example, you can because you've grown up and your body can handle it, right? So it's the same with like the commandment with certain commandments, right? Like ordinances and secondary matters, right? Now, the reason that I read this passage to you guys was to show that Islam, it carries the same fundamentals as Christianity and Judaism, okay? And because Islam carries the same fundamentals, it becomes very easy for the people of the book to believe in Islam, okay? Because it's familiar to them, okay? And that's why in this video I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, please don't attack Christianity. Now, you might have noticed that there is this sort of war that's happening between Muslims and Christians, okay? So Muslims attack Christianity, Christians attack Islam. Right now, you could say, well, Karam, they attack our religion, right? Christians attack our religion. Why shouldn't we? And that's the problem. That's the problem because if you retaliate, it's just going to be this endless cycle, this endless series of retaliations. They attack your religion, you attack their religion. Now, what's the problem with attacking Christianity? Now, especially Christianity. So the problem is that it's counterproductive to spreading the message of Islam. So when we attack another religion, like Christianity, okay, I think the intention with which we do it is that, like by attacking another person's religion, by like refuting it, I think our intention is that, okay, well, if we refute that religion, then the people who adhere to that religion will leave that religion and they'll join our religion. Okay, I think that's pretty much the basic idea. And this actually ends up having the complete reverse effect. Because remember, what did we talk about? Religion, right? What did we talk about? Religion is like a shell, right? Religion is like a shell. So, for example, during the summer season, or for example, when it rains, we sometimes have turtles appear near our house. Okay. Now, whenever we pick up the turtle, it'll immediately its head will like withdraw into its shell. Now, the reason for that is because it's afraid. It's getting defensive. Okay, because it thinks like we're gonna it thinks that we're gonna pose a threat to it, right? Because the shell's like protective layering for the turtle, right? Well, the same thing. If you attack another person's religion, then that person who adheres to that religion, he's gonna get defensive. He's also going to feel disrespected. Okay, so for example, if you attack Christianity, okay, so let's say you make a video where you attack the Trinity, or something else, right? You're pointing out maybe contradictory verses in the Bible. Well, whatever it is that you're doing, let's say you're attacking Christianity. Now, what ends up happening is that, let's say when a Christian watches that video, they feel disrespected. And it's completely natural that also happens to us. We also feel disrespected when the same is done to us. And as a result, they get not only do they feel disrespected, but now they feel defensive, and now they withdraw into their religion even more, which is not what we want. We want them to come to our religion, okay? So we don't want to attack and belittle their religion, okay? We don't want to do that. That's counterproductive to spreading the message of Islam, okay? So that's the first reason I don't think we should be doing this, okay? I don't think we should be attacking other religions, especially Christianity. It's counterproductive to spreading the message of Islam. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm saying especially Christianity, other religions, we shouldn't attack them as well. It's because Muslims especially attack Christianity, okay? Muslims, a lot of, not all Muslims, let me get that correct, not all Muslims, but I do see some Muslims attacking Christianity a lot, okay? And, there are also Christians, and to be fair, there are also Christians that attack Islam as well, okay? So once again, it's like sort of it's an exchange of like retaliations, okay? Now, the other main reason that I don't think we should attack Christianity, is because Christianity is not the issue. Christians are not the enemy. Okay, so with this war with Christians, we have developed we have had this perception, this idea, this false idea that Christians are the enemy, that they're the enemy and we have to fight them. And this is completely wrong. And I'll tell you why this is wrong. The real enemy is not Christians. They're not the real enemy. Okay? If a Christian like attacks your religion, or he raises objections against your religion, then you can like answer those objections, right? So for example, if he's like, why do you believe this in Islam, or like this doesn't make sense in Islam, you can answer those objections. You don't need to launch a counterattack. Now, the real enemy here, it's not Christians or Christianity. The real enemy is actually atheism. Okay? It's actually atheism. Now, the reason atheism is the real enemy here is because atheists don't believe in anything. They don't believe in anything. Okay? So, like, Christians, like we said, like, Islam carries the same core beliefs as Christianity. Atheists don't believe in anything, literally anything. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in afterlife. They don't believe in the resurrection, right? They don't believe in angels. They don't believe in prophets. They don't believe in holy scriptures. Nothing. They believe in nothing. They believe that you live and you die, and that's it. The end. There's nothing. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay? Now, what I find so bizarre is that while there is this growing current, this very deadly current of atheism, which is threatening the faith of the youths, we're attacking Christians. We're attacking Christianity. Why? Christianity is not our enemy. Atheism is. Atheism's the enemy. Like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, like, we should work together with Christians to fight atheism. Because if you think about it, atheism is not just an enemy to Islam, it's also an enemy to Christianity as well. Okay? You know, there are, young Muslims, who leave Islam and become Christian. The same thing is for Christianity. There are young Christians, right? Especially from amongst the youth, who leave Christianity and they become atheist, right? So, the enemy here, is atheism. It's not Christianity. Okay, it's not Christianity. It's not Christians. It's atheism. Okay, and what we should do is we should refute. We should dismantle the attacks of atheism. This is actually what the Risale-i Nur does. So, as you know, like, I just read a passage from this book, Signs of Miraculousness. Okay, this tafsir. So, this book is part of a collection of books of tafsir written by the Muslim scholar Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. Now, Said Nursi wrote the Risale-i Nur during a time when the Islamic faith was under attack. Okay, it was under attack. It was under the attacks of materialism. It was under the attacks of philosophy. So what the Risale-i Nur did was it provided very strong evidence for the core beliefs of Islam. Okay, so for the core beliefs of Islam, and it also refuted the attacks of atheism, the attacks of disbelief. Okay? It also refuted the attacks of disbelief, and in fact, you could actually make the argument that these are the two main objectives of the Risale-i Nur, of this tafsir, which is substantiation, so providing evidence for the core beliefs, and also refutation, refuting the attacks of disbelief. Okay? So I think this is what we should concern ourselves with. We shouldn't concern ourselves with attacking another religion. We should concern ourselves with decimating atheism. I just personally think that's what we should do. Because atheism it's the real enemy here. Okay? It's the real enemy, and it's also threatening the faith of the youths. It also threatens our eternal afterlife. So I think that's what we should do. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you're able to benefit from it. And inshallah, since we have entered Ramadan, inshallah, I will soon release a video on Ramadan as well. Once again, reading a passage from the Risale-i Nur. And inshallah, I will see you guys next time.